The sound of laughter slowly faded into an awkward silence. Jungkook looked to his left, then to his right, confusion flickering across his face. The room around him had been alive with energy just moments before, but now it was still. The kind of stillness that only comes when something's gone wrong, when something's been caught. That was when he saw the tiny red light.
A camera.
Still on, his eyes widened, in that split second, before any PR team could step in, before anyone could issue a statement or cut the feed. Everything that followed became one of the most talked about, unscripted moments in BTS history. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't even particularly dramatic in the traditional sense. But it was real. And in a world where every frame is polished, every word measured, that kind of authenticity is lightning in a bottle. Jungkook didn't flinch. He smiled, awkwardly at first. A little embarrassed, maybe. And then something even more surprising happened. A low chuckle, not from him, but from off-screen. A voice that fans know instantly. Taehyung, the ever-elusive mood-maker. He walked into frame like he knew exactly what he was doing, eyes gleaming with a mix of mischief and care. And what did he do? Not what anyone expected. He didn't try to save the situation. He didn't apologize. He didn't even break the fourth wall with a dramatic oops or try to explain it away. No. Taehyung leaned close to Jungkook, whispered something that the microphones didn't quite catch, but fans immediately set out to decode, and then he laughed. The kind of laugh that says, "Don't worry, I've got you." That simple interaction was enough to send entire fan forums into a frenzy. What did he say? Was it planned? Was it part of an upcoming concept drop? Or just another candid moment from two best friends living in a fishbowl of attention? Millions of armies tuned in, rewatched the clip frame by frame, some swearing they saw Jungkook mouth something secret, others claiming Taehyung's reaction was actually a subtle reference to something they had said in a live months earlier. This wasn't just about what happened. It was about why it mattered. Because when Jungkook didn't realize the camera was still rolling, he gave fans a fleeting glimpse of the version of himself that only the other members see. Not the golden magne, not the world tour performer with record-breaking vocals. Just a guy caught off guard, still carrying that childlike sparkle that fame never managed to dim. And Taehyung? He didn't steal the spotlight. He protected it. Their dynamic, so often romanticized, speculated, and even misunderstood, suddenly became clearer. This wasn't scripted affection. It wasn't content curated for engagement. It was something else entirely. It was Taehyung knowing exactly when to speak and exactly what to say, not to impress, but to comfort. There was no performance in that moment, just instinct. What followed was a tidal wave of digital love. Fan cams went viral. Reaction videos cropped up in every corner of the internet. Hashtags trended globally within hours. But even beyond the reach of algorithms and retweets, there was something deeper happening. People felt something, because in that one moment, when Jungkook thought he was off camera and Taehyung walked in without hesitation, we saw something rare. Vulnerability met with loyalty. The kind that doesn't need to be declared with grand gestures. The kind that happens quietly, naturally, when you know someone better than they know themselves. The clip became a case study in idol authenticity. Social analysts wrote about it. Korean media ran segments dissecting every micro-expression. Even non-fans, drawn in by the sheer relatability of the moment, found themselves down the rabbit hole. There was nothing dramatic, no controversy, no scandal, just two people caught in a human moment, and the world watching it unfold. The power of that clip isn't just in what was seen, it's in what was felt. The shared glance, the private joke, the relaxed body language that followed. Taehyung didn't fix the situation. He reframed it. He gave Jungkook permission to laugh at himself, to let go. And that, more than any apology or explanation, changed the tone entirely. What began as a possible PR headache became a cultural moment. And edits. No second takes. Just one camera, still rolling. And isn't that what everyone secretly wants? To see beyond the performance? To witness the unscripted heartbeat behind the spotlight. In that room, with the red light blinking and the air thick with what now? We got an answer we didn't expect. Not from Jungkook, not in words, but from Taehyung, in a grin, a whisper, and a quiet kind of loyalty that needed no stage. And still, the question lingers. What would have happened if Taehyung hadn't walked in at that exact moment? That, perhaps, is the magic. Not knowing. Because in the mystery, in the not quite heard, not quite seen fragments of that viral moment, fans find infinite room for imagination, interpretation, and emotion. That's the fuel of fandom. That's why this story refuses to fade. The camera was still on. The world was still watching. And for once, everything that happened wasn't for show. The moment lived on, not just as a viral clip, but as a mirror that reflected the quiet truths behind the fame, the connection beneath the choreography, and the friendship beyond the frame. While the world buzzed with theories and replayed the footage, trying to extract meaning from every tilt of the head and every flicker of a smile, those closest to the moment, the members themselves, carried on as though it was nothing at all. And maybe that's the most beautiful part of it, because for Jungkook and Taehyung, this wasn't content. It wasn't a moment destined to trend. It was just one more tiny thread in the unbreakable bond they've woven over a decade of shared stages, late-night rehearsals, long flights, laughter, and pressure. But for the world outside their circle, it was proof, evidence that even in the machine of K-pop, even in the most tightly managed group on the planet, the human heart still pulses with spontaneity and sincerity. Fans began to dig deeper. Those who had followed them for years recalled other moments, small, similarly quiet interactions where Taehyung would check on Jungkook when he looked tired, or Jungkook would silently hand Taehyung water during a concert without being asked. These weren't scripted fan service gestures. They were second nature. And that, perhaps, is the core of what makes this story endure. Some began to notice that Jungkook, in the few days following the incident, seemed even more relaxed on camera, as though the vulnerability he accidentally revealed gave him permission to be more himself. He joked more freely. He looked into the lens with less hesitation. And Taehyung? He was there, as always, with a sideways glance and a smirk that said, "I've got your back." No words needed. What Jungkook didn't know that day was that millions of people would see what happened. That every frame would be slowed down, analyzed, remixed into TikToks and reaction videos and side-by-side comparisons with other past interactions. He didn't know that his moment of uncertainty would become a new kind of closeness between him and his fans, a window that revealed something true, something soft, something human. But he does now, and the world responded, not with criticism, but with warmth. Jungkook trended worldwide not for controversy, but for being caught in a rare moment of honesty. Taehyung trended too, for his subtle rescue, his effortless grace under pressure, and his role as the quiet hero in an unscripted scene. Comment sections overflowed not with anger, but with gratitude. People thanked them for showing that vulnerability doesn't make a star shine less, it makes them shine more. That's why this moment isn't fading. It's growing. Fan artists began to recreate the scene in digital sketches and comics. Writers penned fanfiction inspired by that 10-second interaction. Entire threads were dedicated to decoding Taehyung's whisper and speculating about Jungkook's expression. It wasn't about invading privacy, it was about celebrating intimacy. The kind that fans rarely get to witness in its unfiltered form. Even media outlets outside the K-pop sphere started taking note. Why was this moment making waves? Why did something so small feel so big? The answer was simple, yet powerful, because in a world that often feels staged and curated and performative, people are starved for something real. This wasn't just fan obsession. It was global proof that connection, real connection, resonates across language, culture, and screen. As days passed, the clip didn't lose traction. It became something larger. A symbol, a reminder that even in the highest echelons of fame, even within the most controlled environments, the most impactful moments are often the ones no one planned. And the question still lingers. What would have happened if the camera really had been turned off? Would we have missed this proof of their bond? Would we have continued believing only the polished, staged moments mattered? Or would we have been robbed of the rare kind of story that reminds us why we fall in love with artists in the first place, not just for their talents, but for their truths, because that's what it was. Truth, Jungkook unaware, Taehyung aware. A blink of an eye, a whisper, a laugh, and suddenly, a world of fans feeling closer, more connected, more seen. There's something eternally magnetic about watching someone forget the camera is rolling. It reminds us of their humanity. But there's something even more magnetic about seeing how someone else steps in to protect them when they do. It reminds us of loyalty, of love. And so, the story continues, not because it was dramatic, not because it was scandalous, but because it was real. A reminder that sometimes the most unforgettable stories are the ones that were never supposed to be stories at all. And if you're wondering what the next moment will be, when the camera stays on just a little too long, when someone says something they didn't plan to share, when another accidental window opens into their unfiltered selves, know this: millions will be watching, not to judge, but to cherish. Because this is what we live for now. Not the performance, not the perfection, but the pulse beneath it all. Jungkook didn't know. Taehyung knew exactly. And the world got a gift they never expected. A moment too sincere to script, too meaningful to forget. And it all started with a little red light. Still blinking, that blinking red light, that tiny, unassuming beacon has become a symbol. To some, it represents a technical oversight, a production slip-up that inadvertently allowed the world to see something it wasn't meant to. But to millions more, it became a crack in the carefully polished surface, through which something breathtakingly real escaped. Authenticity. As the days turned into weeks, the momentum didn't fade. It intensified. Global news outlets, YouTube analysts, fan translators, and even behavioral psychologists started chiming in. The clip became a case study in body language, nonverbal communication, and parasocial intimacy. Why did people connect so deeply with it? Why did such a short, unscripted exchange seem more powerful than a whole concert performance or a tightly edited music video? The answer kept coming back to one word: trust. When Jungkook saw that the camera was still rolling and chose to keep going instead of freezing, when Taehyung leaned in instead of stepping back, what we witnessed wasn't just friendship, it was trust made visible. The kind of trust that doesn't need to be shouted or declared. It just lives in a glance, in a step forward rather than away. It wasn't just Jungkook being vulnerable. It was Taehyung meeting that vulnerability, accepting it, covering it, not with silence, but with presence. And that is the kind of moment that sticks to as more and more people came across the clip. It began appearing in fan edits, TikToks set to emotional music, and compilations titled things like Taehyung protecting Jungkook for 10 minutes straight, or proof that V is the ultimate best friend. And while those might seem lighthearted, the emotional undercurrent was anything but trivial. This moment gave fans permission to feel deeply again, to connect. In a world where idol life is so often scrubbed clean, with filters, lighting, PR scripts, and calculated moments of relatable content, here was something unscripted, something that felt alive. And more importantly, something that belonged to them too, not just to the artists. And if you think this was a one-off, think again. The next time BTS went live, even if Jungkook didn't mention it directly, the air felt different. A little looser, a little more honest. And Taehyung? That same mischievous glint was still there, but layered now with something warmer, softer. He didn't need to talk about what happened. The world already knew. Fans began calling it the moment. That's how it appears in fan blogs, comment threads, and caption clips now. The moment. Capitalized. Revered. Studied. Not for what was said, but for everything that was felt. What makes this even more compelling is that BTS, unlike most artists of their scale, have always walked a fine line between superstar mystique and deep transparency. They share personal letters, they live stream when they can't sleep, they cry on camera, they speak about fear, exhaustion, and identity. But even then, fans know there's always a curtain. There has to be. For protection, for professionalism, for survival. But not this time. This time, the curtain dropped for a single, unforgettable heartbeat. And what was behind it wasn't scandalous or shocking. It was tender. It was human. It was healing. People began talking about the healing power of the moment. It may sound dramatic, but ask any fan who saw it live, who felt the visceral flutter in their chest when they realized what they were witnessing. It wasn't just fandom. It was personal, because many who watch BTS don't just see stars, they see companions. They see reflections of their own struggles with identity, with growing up, with pressure, with emotion. And so when Jungkook looked lost for just a second and Taehyung reached out with unspoken reassurance, it wasn't just about them anymore. It was about all of us. Everyone who's ever been caught in a vulnerable moment. Everyone who's ever hoped that someone, anyone, would see them and say, "It's okay. I'm here." That's what Taehyung did. And that's why it matters. The aftershocks of the moment are still rippling. Not in chaos, but in quiet waves of connection. People are still commenting on the video weeks later. Still drawing art. Still crying. Still writing entire essays on Reddit and Twitter, dissecting each breath, each laugh, each glance. And with every analysis, the story deepens, not in fact, but in feeling. There is no official statement. There probably never will be. And that's exactly how it should be, because this isn't a moment to be explained. It's a moment to be felt, to be remembered not in timelines or transcripts, but in emotion. S.O. when you ask, what did Jungkook say? Or what did Taehyung whisper? Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe the answer isn't in the words at all. Maybe it's in the silence that followed, the laughter that broke it, and the bond that made it all make sense. And maybe that's the message Jungkook left us with, whether he meant to or not. That vulnerability isn't weakness. That sometimes being caught off guard reveals more truth than 1,000 practice lines. That it's okay not to have it all together, especially when you have people around you who know how to catch you when you fall. Even if that fall is just a flicker of doubt across your face, when you realize the world is still watching. That, more than anything else, is why this moment lives on. Because in that brief blink of vulnerability, wrapped in the spontaneous warmth of a best friend's response, the world saw something rare, something beautiful, something worth replaying, not for entertainment, but for comfort, for hope, and maybe, just maybe, the camera stayed on long enough to capture something eternal, a truth about friendship, about trust, about how even the biggest stars are still just people, and how sometimes the most unforgettable things happen when no one thinks anyone's watching, but we were, and we still are.